We are entering a new era when it comes to personal brands, and personal brands have now shifted to once being something that was a plus and a competitive advantage to now being survival, right? And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the trends and data that you can leverage in your business if you're a high performing founder or CEO that can allow you to beat your competition, have more exit value, or potentially just see better operations and KPIs across your marketing channels. Now, one of the first things that we're going to talk about is how, based on some research I was looking at from Webster Shanwick's research, 44% of your company's value, especially if we're talking about public companies, is dictated by the CEO's brand. If a CEO has a very large brand and a very strong brand, we're talking about billions of dollars are being impacted from this. This is why companies that are worth billions and raise billions of dollars, usually if you investigate the investor thesis or some of the back end operations on how these people are raising this capital and how they're finding investors, the investors are looking into the story of the person. They're trying to make sure that you have a track record or you have a brand to the point where if something were to happen on TV or if there's a PR crisis, your brand is strong enough to carry the company past that. And it's not just about you being the face of the company in a sense that if you leave the company fails, but your brand is so strong that it's able to attract talent. It's able to help every single marketing channel across the board. And that's why the shift that we've seen over the past 4 to 5 years has gone towards personal brands. But something sinister is taking place now with the rise of AI and what I'm calling the dead internet theory. The dead internet theory, which is just that all of the traffic on the internet is increasingly becoming more bot-like, fake, and artificially intelligent, meaning that it's all generated. It's not real humans. This is now causing customers and consumers to pay more attention to real human beings more than ever. Faceless brands and all this stuff still works. But if you're a company and you have a CEO or you're a founder and you put your face behind your company, you're more likely to get higher valuations. You're more likely to get customers to trust you because of the fact that we are now in an era where trust is at all-time lows. We're seeing all-time highs of AI content. There was another study that said 70% of images on the internet comes from AI. So if 70% of images on the internet come from AI and a user is looking for, images about your restaurant or your business, and you want to just be like everyone else, you're going to cause your brand to be diluted. And the companies that are able to put a face to their message and their brand, whether it's the CEO or not, like sometimes I work with clients and we tell them to just put a spokesperson on there or multiple spokespersons. There's another guy named Daniel that's doing really good that talked about having multiple spokespersons, especially if you want to scale to multiple 7 figures per month, because you don't want just that individual risk of the CEO. But in general, having a personal brand has been something that is causing you across the board to see better metrics when it comes to customer acquisitions, your sales process, sales cycles, email nurture sequences across the board, guaranteed. But now with the rise of AI, it's diluting this. So now we're starting to see engagement across all platforms in combination with this decrease. The amount of time people spend on the internet has been declining. So for example, people have shown that TikTok's engagement has declined by 40%. Engagement rates in terms of if you have 1 million followers on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, you're only seeing 3-5% engagement rates. You're not seeing the type of engagement that we used to. And now we're starting to see data that LinkedIn is the one that's growing in terms of LinkedIn had a 6% median engagement in 2024 to 8% in 2025. But here's the kicker. Only 1% of LinkedIn users actually post content. So there's a very weird distribution in terms of the amounts of people who are growing, the amount of people who are posting AI content or faceless content, and then people who have a solid brand, especially if you're a knowledge leader in your space and industry. So I would definitely say this is going to continue to be a trend over the next 5 to 10 years into 2025 and 2030. We're going to see the rise of CEOs having personal online brands across the board. And people will hire individuals like myself to kind of map out that strategy, that brand strategy, and execute that to actually see some sort of return on investment. Now, the AI flood is a good and bad thing because now what took 10 hours can only take 10 minutes. And a single founder can produce more content. And you can quickly, like what we do for my clients, is we're able to script and build models of what's performing best. This allowed me to get 10 million views on an individual TikTok, book meetings with companies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, before Kalshi raised money. I was able to get an account like Kalshi on a call, all because of the fact that I was able to leverage the same exact thing by using AI to understand the zeitgeist of the user. So you have a brand strategy or a user avatar, and you can use AI to figure out what's working now. And it's like topic/idea selection. So AI is a tool for your operations when it comes to content. But people like Gary Vee often talked about how one time speaking events could turn into 30 different pieces of content. And his content strategy actually is relatively effective if you're a very busy CEO. If you're a very busy entrepreneur that's performing at a high level, you should look at Gary Vee's strategy of content creation, maybe even Alex Hormozi to an extent. But Gary Vee does exactly what he preaches. He's able to get his brand awareness out there by taking one piece of content, repurposing it across multiple platforms, and the actual operations in terms of shooting the content will be a live speaking event, and then it'll be maybe like post-game, pre-game follow-up interviews. So trying to get as much content from one individual event as possible. He doesn't really make as much like sitting down content like this, right? So I think that's very important. I think now what's going to start to happen is more and more people, especially with the rise of AI, are going to start to be skeptical of these AI type content posts. There's also some regulatory scrutiny that's going to take place with undisclosed AI ads or AI UGC ads. So people are going to start to worry about data privacy. More and more people can't tell what's from a human or a bot. Honestly, people are just genuinely going to start to burn out from AI. So now AI is creating the noise and humans are creating the clarity to actually build trust. But if you use AI in the background, like for example, I used AI to structure this out, but all of the research and all of the thoughts and ideations are my own. So it's more about being able to use AI in the background and still have it basically articulate and express your authentic brand. Now, that ties into, again, the trust economy. The whole point of building a personal brand was for the trust economy. I personally made a video on TikTok that did really well and resonated with a lot of people who were talking about we were basically talking about the death of lifestyle flexing and lifestyle marketing. The reason why you don't see as many gurus like, Grant Cardone, and you don't see people like Dan Lok and all of these flexing scammers anymore is because the average user started to become much more media aware and media literate in terms of how internet commerce takes place. So people are starting to understand that people want trust, and AI and brands are starting to use UGC or brands are starting to use AI and UGC to make sure that they can bypass your trust. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to matter is a human being. And there was a study that they did where 58% of decision makers chose businesses based on thought leadership content alone. And 61 will pay a premium prices for a brand that has clear thought leadership. And oftentimes consumers trust brands that have a CEO on the face of it, because it's just all about trust. The reason why I'm creating this content is so I can build more trust. People can search me up, like full context. I'm building this for trust. I'm not necessarily trying to sell entirely in this, but when I do outreach and I run ads, I want people to watch this content. So I don't have to have a harder time selling. And in combination, my funnels and everything else will become easier throughout this next year in 2026 and beyond. So overall, we're starting to see the rise of artificial intelligence and the shift in the consumer sentiment around personal brands because of the saturation of pure content out there and now AI generated content. People are fatigued, and personal brands are going to become key in a sea of AI slop. Now, there are some downsides to a personal brand, right? So some of the clients I've worked with and even some of the sales calls I've jumped on, if you're a high performing entrepreneur and you're making millions of dollars a month without a personal brand, you kind of have to ask yourself, why would you pivot your strategy? And are you okay with losing your privacy, especially if you're a high performer and you have a very good, lifestyle? Why would you want to showcase that to the world? And that's something, it's more of a personal question, right? Because, if you want to really sell your company and you're extremely competitive like me, then I think it's worth it, right? So I'm trying to run it up and I'm trying to outcompete everyone else in my industry. That's why I'm creating this personal brand content. And if you're someone also like that, then you kind of have to weigh out the pros and cons of whether or not you're comfortable or you want to completely destroy and dominate your market. And that's personally my personal belief and the type of clients I want to work with. But what actually works now in terms of personal brand content, and for context, this is one of my clients named JK that runs a YouTube slash hybrid content funnel where he generated 100K plus per month consistently leveraging YouTube. His retargeting ads had healthy ROASs. Cold traffic audiences were struggling to scale, while the audience that he had built up through posting long form YouTube was able to collect profitably with a healthy ROAS compared to cold traffic channels. Now, it's still effective, but it's a completely different ballgame, especially depending on the niche in the industry that you're targeting. So, one of the most important things when it comes to high performing CEO personal brand content is that you need to understand that video content is not optional. It's mandatory. You have to be speaking like I'm speaking. And most likely, if you're a CEO or a founder, you have the capability to speak and articulate yourself leading, and you know how to fucking do that. You just need to get over yourself and speak on camera, because you can speak to a group of 100 people and speak on stage. You can't speak in front of a damn camera. I mean, come on. I'm doing it right now and I'm not a CEO, but eventually I will be once I scale this company up. And when you realize that you have the capability to articulate yourself to a team or to a company meeting, investors, then why can't you do that on camera? And that's going to help your company grow over a long period of time and help build trust with your ideal audiences, close better deals, and attract better talent. Now, platform strategy also does matter. Being able to accurately pick the best strategies or the best platforms is going to significantly help you grow. YouTube is one of the things that is definitely worth it, and a part of my offer in terms of how I help CEOs is we build it out. We build a hybrid content system centered around YouTube, and we repurpose that. And TikTok is also very good for short form attention. So short form in general, in terms of very quick wins, if you want to get a lot of traffic, these leads probably have a less likelihood of converting, but you can get a lot more attention quicker through shorts, YouTube, Instagram Reels, and TikToks. But YouTube is very powerful. This is one of the first YouTube channels I built. I generated over 20,000 subscribers and $70,000 in profit within less than a year, basically 8 months, leveraging exactly what I'm telling you. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and create another channel like that. It won't be as big because this is smaller, but you get the point. Now, LinkedIn is also very powerful. I keep getting my LinkedIn accounts banned because I use automations. But if I wasn't, I would also be on LinkedIn as well, which is why I'm trying to create content in here as well. But LinkedIn is also very, very good, especially if you're a B2B founder, SaaS founder. Very effective also for B2B outbound prospecting campaigns if you build up an audience on there. Another thing that I really do believe is going to start performing well is documentation over creation. If you're a very busy entrepreneur, you don't have time to sit down and create content. You need to be documenting some of the thought processes and almost looking at it like a journal. So if you're able to do that, you're going to succeed. A lot of the people like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, they all sit down and document their process, their sales calls, whatever, and have people that are following them to create content around their world. Even Andy Elliott does this very well versus creating content. That's not very effective if you're a CEO, and it's very hard to be a content creator and a high performing CEO that's worth millions, if not billions of dollars. It's extremely difficult. Now, another thing that you really want to pay attention to is how to execute this, because some people, especially if you're a smart entrepreneur, you probably understand that this is going to take time. You're not going to see an immediate ROI within the first 0 to 3 months. Now, I do market that we see success within 90 days. We'll see success within a week, but a long-term sustainable ROI is not going to happen overnight. And you can go viral overnight. I'm not going to lie. I have had clients, like one of my clients that's in the blue collar space. He's a CEO that went viral within the first week of some of the content ideas and strategies that we discussed. But it's not that he's going to see, massive success and be all over the news in the first week. You really want to look at it in terms of the quarterly basis, the first 3 to 6 months, the first year, and then a multi-year, compounding, interest of having a content library and a reputation that precedes you on the internet. Now, one of the last things that I think is going to be very, very important is ultimately manning the hell up and making the decision, whether you're in or whether you're out. Because if you keep going on the fence of whether or not you want to create content as a business owner or a founder, you're going to reach a point where your competitors are going to start to invest in these channels. And as time goes on, they're going to be able to eat your lunch every single day. So as I said before, my client JK is able to hit consistent 100K months, all because he built a library of content that now is able to sell for him automatically. It helps his sales team. It helps his sales cycles. It helps paid ads. It helps Google ads. It helps cold outreach. When you create a library of content, it significantly helps your sales cycles and sales process versus running cold. Now, cold can work if you have killer paid ad strategists. Again, we can still run paid ads for you, but you still need to look at organic content to have sustainability in your funnel, as well as just overall like natural organic partnerships and talent that reaches out that you can't really get from paid. And I do believe you're going to get naturally lower CPMs organically compared to paid as well. So really, you just have to commit. You have to ask yourself whether or not it's worth it. If 40% of a company's value is influenced by a CEO, and you want your company to be as valuable as possible, and you truly do want that versus your privacy or being comfortable or going on the yacht and sleeping with Instagram models, then you need to sit down and ask yourself, what do I really want out of life? Is this worth it? Do I want to destroy my competitors? And if you want to completely dominate your market and find someone who's hungry to help you scale, you can work with me. Make sure you guys reach out in the comments or potentially DM me. There'll be a link to my calendar on this YouTube video. But other than that, make sure you guys like and follow for more. And if you're a high performing CEO that wants to completely just rock your industry with a team that's hungry and young, make sure you reach out.